Over the past 10 years, there has been an increasing number of worried parents bringing their babies to see me as a consultant paediatric osteopath, concerned about the shape of their babies' heads. And this has been particularly since the directive has been issued, the very successful directive has been issued to put babies on their backs. And we all know that when we see a baby, sometimes in a very uncomfortable car seat where the head is pushed forwards, or a baby lying on a flat mattress, this is not the position that one would expect to see a baby, as if it was being cradled and supported in the crook of the mother's arm. So the idea certainly came shortly after a trip to the Middle East, in which I saw babies being carried all day long in the crook of the mother's arm. The babies seemed happy, the mothers were getting on with their daily chores, and it suddenly occurred to me that we have very little to replicate this in our society, in Western society. So the idea of the sleep curve mattress was simply born partly out of necessity and partly out of common sense, whereas the most obvious thing to do is to cradle the baby's head, whatever the position that baby is in, and to allow that baby comfort and support so that the pressure is taken off the back of the head, not only from an aesthetic point of view, where the babies do not develop the flattening of the skull, but also from a comfort, safety point of view also. The message that I feel is most important is, first of all, sleep curve is not just for babies who develop flat heads, and we'll talk about that in a moment. It's for babies straight, if they come out of the hospital, they should be put onto a sleep curve mattress so that the back of the head is cradled and supportive. Parents are beginning to ask themselves now why it is we would ever consider putting a baby on a flat surface. Consider, if you would, one important factor. In Mother Nature, there's no such thing as a straight line. If we are actually lying babies on a flat mattress, we're asking the curves of their body to adopt that straight line. I'm constantly being asked to comment on whether the sleep curve mattress can in fact help or cure babies with plagiocephaly or flat head syndrome. And the answer is, if you take off the pressure that's causing the flatness in the first place, then you're allowing Mother Nature every possible chance to self-correct. There have been dozens of reports recently where their mothers are absolutely convinced that since they've put their baby on the sleep curve mattress, their head has been improving in its shape and reverting back to normal, back towards spherical shape and proportions. It would be wrong of me to say that every baby has dramatic effects, because some are clearly so bad. The misshapenness is so bad that obviously other restorative measures are necessary. For example, the helmet therapy can obviously be of benefit in very severe cases, but nevertheless, sleep curve, I would be able to say quite comfortably that sleep curve would stop any further progression of any flatness taking place within the skull bones. By far the most important approach to adopt is that of prevention. Prevention is always, or very often, much more easily achieved than cure. If by preventing your baby developing a flat head, by simply allowing the baby's head to be cradled and supported as if it were in the crook of the mother's elbow, then the follow-on of having to deal with a baby with a flat head and the worry as a consequence of that can then be stopped. The first 3 months are the critical time in a baby's life, as when the changes in skull shape are more likely to occur, because at that time the baby's skull bones are most soft. And the reason that they are at the softest at that stage in life is because the skull bones have to be able to change shape to allow the baby down the birth canal, and that is a residual effect of the birth process which the baby's skull bones, as we all know, tend to harden up as the baby gets older, and the critical time is the first 3 months. Now, I'm often asked to comment on how to spot a baby developing a flat head, and if I can draw your attention to this newborn baby's skull, probably the easiest way to detect early signs of flat head syndrome, particularly plagiocephaly, is if you look from a bird's eye view. So in other words, as you're looking down from the top of the skull as if you were a bird, you would see a change in shape between one side of the back of the skull and the other. Now, if the baby's skull had a tendency to rotate to the one side, let's say in this instance the right side, you would get a flattening of that skull bone on where my hand is, on a flat mattress. This side would tend to still be quite round, this side wouldn't be. One would also notice a change in the position of the ears in slightly more advanced cases. In other words, as this skull bone flattens on one side, then so is the ear pushed forward on that side and it's pushed backwards on that side. Therefore, when the baby's skull is facing upwards, you would get a forward positioning of this ear and a backward positioning of the opposite ear. There are 3 classifications to flat heads. There is moderate, severe, and mild. And if we start off with the mild one, these are almost you have to look for them specially. They're not easy to spot. You would have to be looking from the top, but you would see a definite asymmetry in the shape of the skull. Many babies are undetected, and it's only been more recently, since the concern of head shape in babies, that is when they are more likely to be detected. Many members of the medical profession and nursing profession probably wouldn't have spotted these, but if you look, it's quite easy to see from a bird's eye view. The second category is the moderate. Now then, I classify this group as those babies that you can spot from 6 to 10 feet away. If you're looking at a baby's skull, you can see the skull bones, and you look at the skull, and you can see, without actually looking from a bird's eye view, that there is obviously some misshapening of the skull bones. Severe cases are those babies unfortunate enough to have a severe plagiocephaly can be seen from some considerable distance. These babies, you will see, if you look at the top of the skull and there's a flattening of this side, this distance between the bottom of the skull and the top of the skull on this side is very, very much shorter than the diagonal angle across from right frontal to left parietal. So left frontal to right parietal is considerably smaller, and right frontal to left parietal is considerably longer, and that's in a right-sided plagiocephaly. Obviously, the reverse happens if the plagiocephaly is on the opposite side. With regard to brachycephaly, that is where the back of the skull becomes flattened as a result of lying on a flat surface. And there are, I'm sure, photographs of these available, certainly on this website, whereby the flattening of the skull at the back looks as though the baby's skull has been pushed, and it's almost as flat as a flat surface. And that's why, by cradling the baby's head as if it was in the crook of the mother's elbow, as if cupping it in your hand, it does protect this misshapen feature taking place. I'm often asked to comment on the safety issue, any safety issues around the Sleep Curve mattress. Now, the Sleep Curve mattress was initially marketed following safety studies in a paediatric hospital, in a sleep laboratory, on a number of babies, and those results were very encouraging, and absolutely no safety issues ensued following that. We also have now the benefit of hindsight. There are literally thousands of mothers absolutely delighted with their Sleep Curve mattress. There were no safety issues that have ever been raised, and they're all delighted with their mattresses.